Yo, what is up, guys? Your boy Izuku here with the finale of What If Deku Had All for One. Guys, this one, like, I don't really have a script, so I'm just going off my head, where I want the story to go. So, and this, if you don't like your favorite My Hero character dying, then, just tune out, cause this is gonna get somewhere. So, I'll see you guys. Wait, no. So like, subscribe, and let's begin. So we left off with a story with All Might realizing that Night Demon was actually Izuka, which is Izuku's alias at UA. So we left off with him realizing that the Night Demon was actually Izuka, and some pro heroes from the stadium came down and took a fighting position towards Night Demon, or Izuku. So let's get into it. So Izuku starts walking towards the heroes, and he's like, "You know what, All Might? I'm done playing hero." All Might says, "What do you mean, I'm not sure if I change his last name, but yeah, young Midoriya." And he says, "Do you remember that day you fought All for One?" "What? How do you know about All for One?" "I have many quirks, All Might, and one of them so happened to be I have the ability to read your memories. So now tell me, do you remember the name Inko Midoriya?" Omen just starts thinking, Inko Midoriya? I've never heard that name before. So he says, "No, I've never heard it before." All Might, that was the wrong answer. And then Izuku charges All Might and punches him into the wall. The other heroes there came rushing towards Izuku, but he uses another quirk, Time Stop. He's only able to stop time for around 10 seconds, and he goes around defeating all the other heroes, knocking them out, also taking their quirks. And he also has a quirk similar to Mr. Compress, but it doesn't compress it into like an orb. He more compresses it into a small sphere. So he takes two of those heroes, no one special, probably top 500 in the hero rankings. And he turns his attention to All Might. All Might trying to recover from a pretty devastating punch. And he says, "Did that punch jog your memory, All Might?" It's like, "No, I don't know who Inko Midoriya is." Still wrong answer, All Might. Then he shoots a bolt of lightning towards All Might, electrocuting him. He does this repeatedly, and then All Might actually remembered. He remembers that day he fought All for One. He had heard of the child who had a similar quirk to him, so he had been looking for him for a while. He finally found him, and they had a fight at a mall. That day, Inko was actually in the mall, and let's just say their fight got pretty out of hand, and some of the debris actually killed some people in the mall. And one of those persons include Inko. So All Might, snaps, goes back to reality. He's like, "Okay, yes, I remember the name Inko Midoriya. What about it? Who is she?" "Oh, All Might, don't you know? That's my mother." Then it all clicks in All Might's head. He's like, wait, Inko Midoriya, her son had the All for One quirk, and if this guy's telling the truth, then he must have All for One. Plus, he's seeing him use multiple quirks. So it all snaps, and he's like, "Young man, you can stop this. You don't have to be like the other one. Yeah, you don't have to be like the other All for One." It's like, "No, All Might, unless you can bring my mother back. I'm done playing hero. I've saved more villains than you have ever done in your lifetime. And what do I get? Nothing. I'm done." So he shoots towards All Might and starts building up a punch. He starts going similar to what the actual All for One did in his fight against All Might. So he starts charging up the punch, spring-like limbs, kinetic boosters ×4, enhancers ×3, multiplier, hypertrophy, rivets, airwalk, and spear-like bones. And, I just want to make it more menacing. He's like, Mirio Togata, yes, All Might. I know your successor. Now you can die with regrets. Farewell, one for all. And as he was about to punch him, All Might closed his eyes. Then he felt something punch him, but he didn't. It wasn't what he expected. He opened his eyes and sees just a boy, no more than like 5'5", and it felt like nothing. He looked up and saw Aizawa was there and wrapped the kid around with a scarf. He says, "Oh," he says, "Let me go." And Aizawa is like, "Shut up, kid," and chops him in the back of the neck, knocking him out. I know, but don't worry, it's coming. So All Might says, "Ugh, Aizawa, I owe you one." He's like, "Yeah, but let's get this kid to Tartarus." So they bring him to the prison with, like a maximum security prison, the baddest of the bad go. And they sit Izuku in a room, they tie him down to a chair, quirk canceling cuffs and everything. And they start questioning him, like, oh, where have you been? Because to them, he just went missing. He just stays silent, and then, kind of a good cop, bad cop type of situation. So that was Aizawa talking to him for the first part. And then another more serious looking guy comes in, and he closes the door behind him. And then the windows where people would be watching, he closes those blinds. And he's like, "Okay, so are you gonna start talking?" He's like, "I have nothing to say to you." And the guy says, "Is that so?" And then he opens his palm as a fire appears. Then he says, "Well, let's see how long that lasts." Then he burns into Izuku's skin, creating a handprint, sinking into his skin, leaving like third-degree burns, but times 10. Izuku starts screaming in pain, and the guy says, "You want to talk now?" And Izuku says, "I'll have nothing to say to you." And the guy goes to burn him again, but Izuku turns his back and points the cuffs towards his hand, and he accidentally burns the cuff. And Izuku says, "Finally." He grabs the guy by the face, taking his quirk. Once the guy burns through his cuffs, Izuku immediately goes for Aizawa because he knows he's the only one that's going to be able to stop him. Because the guy covered the windows, no one really knows what's going on. They just heard a loud bang, and Aizawa decided to come in. He came in and just saw the guy groveling on the ground, groaning. He looks around, he doesn't see Izuku anywhere. He goes to help the guy up then. From behind, a hand touches him. "Finally, I can get rid of this problem. Now die, Aizawa." He takes his quirk and uses a shape-shifting quirk to turn his hand into some blades, and actually basically cuts off Aizawa's head. So he breaks through the roof and enters the city. He turns on a gigantification quirk, then just starts tearing down building after building. Heroes are trying to do stuff, but anyone that gets close, they basically get killed, either by crushing or, Izuku has a lot of quirks that I haven't gone over. So yeah, Izuku is just tearing down the city, and the heroes actually had to evacuate Tokyo. So Izuku, he considers that a win because right now Izuku, he's just angry, and he has a bright idea too. Why not take over the world? He has the power to do it, so why not? So once the heroes evacuate Tokyo along with hero students or heroes in training, Izuku actually decides to go and find his alter ego, the first All For One. Asserting his power, he actually comes across All For One. He blackmails All For One, to join him because he's obviously stronger. Or he could just take All For One, to be honest. So, Izuku sets up kind of a sort of headquarters of sorts, and over a couple weeks, he's actually taken over most of southern Japan. not really most, all of southern Japan. And now it's become an international issue because one of the islands of the Japan was actually owned by China. So they're gonna create a whole siege. So number one heroes from China and Japan team up to try and get to Izuku. Except for All Might. All Might still kind of has PTSD from the sports festival incident. So yeah, so they create a huge army to go and get Izuku. Let's just put it simply, they get wiped out easily. All of them dead. Izuku collects up their quirks. And Izuku has been experimenting with something. It's kind of like Nomu's, but they don't go into this weird body, like this huge purple mass or whatever. So Izuku takes the heroes he just disposed of and he decides to make use of them. He creates kind of like super soldiers, but they have this sort of, he uses a quirk to brainwash them and he has complete control. So he has basically his own army of quirked heroes. And Izuku uses his forces and drives the heroes out of Japan. So now the heroes are going to the US because that's the strongest, that's the country with the strongest heroes. And the US decides to, give a helping hand. So the US sends over, who do I want to put in this? They send over their number 2 hero. They send over. Okay, so 10 minutes later, done some research. The number 1 hero in the US MHA's universe is this guy called Captain Celebrity. Basically, think All Might, but more, not All Might. Think Superman, but no heat, just flight and super strength, and he has a invisible barrier around him. But he can extend it to cover other people, but it becomes thinner for himself. So yeah, and he's not really as strong as All Might, to be honest. His main power is flight. So he along with another, the top 5 heroes of Japan except All Might, they decided to rush Tokyo because that's where they know Izuku's main headquarters is. So they go through battle after battle, defeating some of Izuku's foot soldiers, and they finally reach the outskirts of Tokyo. Izuku getting word that some of his men are dying, he goes over there and he meets over there with those 5 heroes. So Izuku would engage in a fight with Hawks, Endeavor, Best Genius, Captain Celebrity, and Miracle. So he easily takes down Best Genius and Hawks, and he wants to play around a little bit because at this point he's gathered enough quirks where at this point nobody in Japan has quirks except for his foot soldiers. He has basically made quirks extinct, or so he thinks. Probably like 1 or 2 people still have quirks. People who live in like mountains or something. So he's basically made the whole of Japan quirkless, taking all the quirks for himself. And Izuku, he quickly dispatches of Hawks and Best Genius. He's then engaged in a fight with Miracle, and he realizes that she's pretty strong. She might be worthy to be his wife. So he puts her under, what would more easily explain as a genjutsu, but he uses a quirk to sort of brainwash her to come to his side of the fight. And she starts attacking Endeavor. So him along with Miracle takes down Endeavor and Hawks and Captain Celebrity. Captain Celebrity really isn't all that strong. So wait, no. All right, no. So they beat up Captain Celebrity, killing the other 3 heroes, and they tell him to bring All Might because that's who he wants. He wants the head of All Might, either that or bring his mother back. So Captain Celebrity goes off running, and not running, flying. He goes flying back to the US and he tells everyone, the news that Izuku gave him. Everyone's like, All Might, please, it's you or the world, All Might. And All Might says, but, and people are like, All Might, we need you, you're our hero, playing that card. All Might says, all right. So this whole thing takes a month, and Miracle has actually, now Izuku doesn't even have to use a brainwashing quirk. She has actually gotten feelings for Izuku. So she's like, so what are we gonna do today? And he said, well, we're just waiting on the response from the US. And he actually has a present for Miracle. She gets all excited and he's like, yeah, I got you Australia. She's like, you got me Australia? He's like, yeah, I took over the country for you. And she says, oh, really? Wow. And so she's excited, they go visit. And at this point, the world is just like, yeah, we can't mess with that guy, give him whatever at this point. So he has 2 countries, and Izuku is in the countries he's owned, nobody has quirks. He rules over them with an iron fist. They live pretty chill lives, but Izuku doesn't allow anyone to have quirks to the best of his abilities. So Izuku gets word that All Might finally decided to give his life for the people, making it sound better. So All Might goes to Japan and he tries talking Izuku out of it. He's like, young Midoriya, you can still recover from this. It doesn't have to be this way. Says, All Might, the moment you killed my mom, I was set on this road of vengeance. And Izuku says, and All Might says, no, Midoriya, we can still sort things out. It's like, too late, All Might. And Izuku had some people filming this, and he just cuts off All Might's head. It just starts rolling around, and All Might his body just drops to the ground. Everybody who was watching this was just filled with fear of they've seen him defeat #1 heroes, but they didn't think he was that strong. So after seeing this display of power, they regard him as just the strongest being in the world. So ever since Izuku killed All Might, he's just had peace with himself. Over the years, Izuku, he actually gained a immortality quirk and he shared it with Miracle. So they've just been ruling over, they're just gonna rule over Japan and Australia for basically forever. And that's the end, Hope you guys enjoyed. This one wasn't really as, developed as my other what ifs. I just wanted to, get this series and, just move on to other stuff. So, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thanks for sticking to the end, and I'll see you guys in the next what if.